All right, we're going to try that again. What up, everybody? This is braV, and this is episode number 35 of I Can't Produce a Podcast. Welcome, because holy shit, that was tight. That was my favorite track. Brad, you can go ahead and unmute yourself now if you would like.
What's up?
What up? What up?
We got braV and Brad.
braV, yep, BB, double B. My friend, so I was going through your stuff as I do with every guest, and that one really stood out to me, or that was the first one where I was like, all right, yeah, no, that's why I'm a fan. X11B. What the fuck is up with that track? Where did you get the name? Where do you get the everything, the sample? It just feels it's underrated at AF. It's awesome.
That's actually really funny. Yeah, I'm surprised at that one because I wasn't actually listening to what just got played. So that's surprising that that's the one that is your favorite. But that's dope. Yeah, because that's definitely one of my least played songs. But I'm glad to hear you like it.
Compared to your other numbers, it's not popular.
Yeah, it flew under the radar. Maybe because it's more experimental than maybe some of my other stuff. But yeah, that one.
That's crazy for a guy named Mindsplitter.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I started that one like forever ago. It was like kind of in the vault for a long time, and it was didn't really have much of a theme to it for a long time, and then finally I like rediscovered it in my whips, and I wanted to turn it into like a full track and give it a full theme and story. Um, and so with that track, like the vocals you hear and like the kind of the whole storyline, I used actually like so I just wrote a script and then I used AI to, have it narrate the
Oh,
script.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then I
Which
just kind of
software did you use for that? Do you remember?
It's called 11 Labs.
I was gonna ask. 11 Labs is dope.
Yeah, have you played around with it before?
I have just a little bit. They have a lot of tools, but the most of them I feel like are paid.
Yeah, I actually because you get a certain amount of credits and then those run out. I actually pay like a couple bucks a month because it's become so useful for me for doing things like that because it just allows me to turn an idea that I have. Like, because before, if I have an idea of a certain theme or story, I got to kind of like scour for vocals that already exist that kind of touch on those words or phrases. And sometimes I have a really hard time finding anything out there that does that, and it's really been cool and helpful to have that tool to just have it narrate for me, and just come up with the lines myself, and then I get to make it say exactly what I want versus trying to make just some random other phrase fit my story.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that is a problem or a hump that producers have kind of been facing for years and years and years.
Yeah, exactly. And I've thought about I've still will do it for certain projects. Like I was originally going to reach out to like some voice actors for that and just for other projects I have that require narration. Because you can get the exact performance you want when you talk with someone who's a professional at it. You can tell them, "Hey, I want you to get like whispery on this part, or I want you to really emphasize this word." And that's kind of hard with 11 Labs. You're just kind of like generating until I'll generate it like 20 times, and then I'll cut different words from the different performances and hopefully get something that I like. But working with an actual voice actor would be really cool. So I definitely want to do that in the future for like a more serious project.
Yeah, well, you fooled me. I definitely didn't think that was an AI voice, which it's a little. I wouldn't say it's buried. It's more of a setting, or it's meant to kind of set the scene. Did
Exactly.
you wrote a script for that though? I thought it was a sample. What was the story you were trying to tell with that?
Yeah,
I mean, it's laid out pretty well in there, but like what was going through your mind?
I'm trying to remember what made me think of that, to be honest. I think it was just a lot of my ideas come from the sound design. So I try to think like, what does this sound design remind me of? I may have started on like visuals to represent that sounds like that main lead. I did a whole music video for that song.
Is it out?
So I think yeah, it's on YouTube. And yeah, so I did like a visual for that, and I think I probably like started with this organic like blob thing moving to the main sound and the drop. And that is where I started. That was before I even had the narration stuff actually got added into the song like towards the very end before I released it. And then it all kind of came together at the last second with the story. And so I think I started there, and then I was like, okay, this kind of reminds me of some sort of like weird futuristic alien energy. And then I just kind of like sat down and wrote a script and then went from there. But yeah, that all came together within the last like week probably before I completely finished it.
Well, I am the 420th view on your music video for that. This is really cool.
It took so long. I love the idea of doing a full story music video, but I don't know if I'll commit that kind of time in the near future again. I think I'll wait for a more like something more grand. But
how long did this music video take you?
It was like 2 to 3 weeks of just nonstop rendering, editing, rendering, and it was just so much work designing all the different scenes and stuff. It was a really great experience because I learned a lot of stuff that I'd been wanting to kind of like mess with. Like I got to design a spaceship, which was cool. And I played with a lot of different kind of like camera animations and stuff that I hadn't done before. And I also tried a new technique where I rendered out in the main drop, I rendered out like the main blob thing and the whole environment separately. And that way, when I was editing the music video, I could manipulate those independently versus just all on one video. And so I learned a few different really cool concepts in the process. But like, you know, the the end result, or like I guess the reward for all the effort, just didn't really justify the time. So I think it's going to be a while before I decide to do something like that again.
Gotcha. Did wow, there's so many questions I want to ask. I just don't want to forget the software question that I wanted to ask. But what I want to ask before then is, how long have you been doing Blender for?
Yeah, I think I started Blender in around 2020, which is when I started. I think I started Blender about when I started the MindSplitter project. I had already been producing for a few years before then.
Did you go under a different alias?
Yeah, I started off with this alias that was just like me, like first getting into it, and it was called Night Alone, which I don't even know if it might have stuff on SoundCloud, but I kind of like my first 2 or 3 years of doing that. Then I got to a point where I got my bearings with production and wanted to start fresh with something that had like a stronger vision. And that's when I started MindSplitter.
Oh my god. Was that a bass project, or was it a different genre, or just
it was also bass music, experimental stuff. Actually, if you go to my Spotify on for MindSplitter, the very first track released on there was actually originally a Night Alone track. But I just changed my like Spotify name from that to MindSplitter, so it's still on there. And then I had a few other releases that I actually removed, but the one that's still up there, it's called Nobody. It still holds up surprisingly well for one of my first few releases.
Why didn't you remove it when just curious, you know, as a fan?
I just think it still fits my I guess my taste of sounds and atmosphere and production quality. I guess it's obviously not as good as more recent stuff by me, but I think it still holds up, and like I don't mind as long as it's not a complete like offshoot from what I'm doing now. I think it's cool to have, you know, the earlier stuff there. Yeah. I know some people tend to like remove a lot of their earlier stuff, but I don't really plan to do that. So yeah, I'm just going to keep that one there.
I prefer it when artists leave a little trail of their development and their evolvement, right? You know?
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I mean, yesterday I was going back through some of my favorite artists like Quicks and people like that, and going back to their very first releases, and it's really cool to still be able to see those.
It's funny you bring that up. So the second two that really stood out to, I mean, all of you, by the way, all of your songs are, I can really tell that you put a lot of effort into the arrangement and the storytelling, as like they really speak to me. And I feel like that's part of the reason they speak to me, is not only the really cool sound design, but it really feels like you're taking me on a journey the entire time. Yuno's great, as like, I love that song. The visuals for that are sick. But the ones I wanted to bring up were, the aliens flip And with the birds, like with the
Oh yeah.
birds, I mean that one has a lot of plays. Was there where'd the title of that one come from? Because that one is very interesting to me.
Thank you. And also, by the way, thank you so much for saying all that before. I didn't want to cut you off, but I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that, you know, it's being received like that because I do try my best to kind of create a story or a journey with what I'm making. So it's really cool to hear that that's what you're getting out of it. But yeah, with the birds, that was actually the first track I think that actually started getting like some traction.
Did you
Uh,
expect that any at all? You know, at the time.
no, not really. Especially because it's like very weird. I mean, like the drop is literally just like a bird sound in a sub. Like there, I mean, obviously there's lots of effects going on, but like it's very like not a conventional mix. Like where there's no, there's not really anything going on in the mids. It's just like high whistling sound with just sub. And I didn't know if that was gonna kind of resonate with anybody. I was like, it's gonna sound cool at a show, but most people aren't gonna be listening to it on a nice system. So I don't know how this is gonna play out, but definitely wasn't expecting people to like it as much as they did. But yeah, that one started off. I think I made that bird sound is just a synth patch that I made, and I don't
Oh,
remember
really?
what
So
synth. It was
it's
probably
it's a
Serum.
fake bird.
Yeah, it's a
It's a,
fake bird.
a
It's a
bourgeois
robot bird.
bourgeoisie bird.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I think it's literally just like some sort of variation of a sine wave being pitched around and stuff that sounded like a bird, and that's usually how a lot of my ideas start. You know, I'm sound designing, and as soon as I get some sort of idea of what it reminds me of, I try to take it and run with it and like double down on it and really like flesh it out. And so it sounded like a bird, and then I like tend to gravitate towards like trippier atmospheres and just sound design. So then I decided to call it Tripping with the Birds. Or not Tripping with the Birds. That's one of the pre-drop lines, but just called it With the Birds.
Right. Okay, so that's cool. So it sounds like you really like to synthesize things from scratch almost. Like do you
Yeah,
prefer
most of
that
my
rather
sounds.
than grabbing or rifling through samples or grabbing
Yeah.
stuff from movies?
Yeah, most of my sounds and sound design is all synth based, except for like effects. Although I have been making more and more effects with synthesizers. But yeah, most of like all the main basses and leads and most of my songs have been from synths I've made.
Hell yeah. What's do you have a favorite preset? Or sorry, oh my god, not preset.
Synthesizer.
VST. Yeah, do you
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I started with Serum like a lot of people did, and then Vital came out. I don't even remember when that came out, but
Vital is so
yeah,
fucking
I
cool.
love Vital. When it came out, I just spent like 2 weeks just dedicated to like playing around with it, which if anyone's listening and is wanting to like learn a synth, that's the way to do it. Just like dedicate a couple weeks to playing around with it, and all of a sudden it's crazy how much you'll be able to do after that. But once I did that, I fell in love with it, especially because at the time it was like, I mean, there's probably other synthesizers, but it was the only one I had used where you had like two warp knobs for the wavetables, and I was able to get all these kind of crazy sounds with it. So I immediately fell in love with it.
Did you study
Um,
any production or sound design kind of prior to that, or was it really all inspired by trying to learn how to use Vital?
yeah, no, I didn't study anything. I mean, it's mainly just experimentation and then using what I'd kind of picked up over the years of watching like Serum tutorials or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think pretty much all of my Vital knowledge was just playing around with it. And that's what I like about it so much is it's so powerful, but it's one of the simplest layouts and workflows out of any of the synthesizers. Like I feel like I can get to a cool sound quicker in that synth than anything else. But fast forward to now with Serum 2, I've been having a
I was
lot
just
of
about to
fun with
ask.
Serum 2. And I think it might be taking the cake for my main synth just because I've just been getting some really nice sounding stuff in it, and it has, the three oscillators now, and I really love all the new effects and how you can just like have a ton of filters going on, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that. And I think that's probably going to become my main now.
Yeah, I mean they did the company did they did done good. I
They
was
did.
kind of skeptical of them when Vital came out, and they did nothing for like 4 or 5 years,
Right?
basically. And then when Syrup 2 came out, I was like, great. I guess I'm out $200. 'Cause that was my immediate thought, was like, okay, well,
Uh-huh.
that's cool. But no, the free up one, I
Yeah.
think they made the smartest business move they could have. They earned my respect back as a customer, and
Yeah,
as
because
a
you
producer.
really can't complain when it's like I was in the same boat. I saw it and everyone was talking about it, and I'm like, I was like, I just don't think it's gonna be enough for me to want to pay and go back to Serum now that I'm loving like Vital for years now. And yeah, the fact that it was free got me on board, and now it's impressed me so much since then.
It's
So
a it's be- I would argue. I mean, I love Vital. I'd argue that it's a step up from Vital, most
yeah,
definitely.
I'd argue the same thing, honestly. And that's why I mean, like, even with Vital had its downsides, like I would still go to Serum for any of my FM synthesis needs, because I felt like it was just always so much of a cleaner. Like in I have like a lot of FM stuff going on in the second drop, and I switched over to Serum just for those sounds because it's just I could never get a great FM sound with Vital, but yeah, so I would say Serum 2 is probably all around better at this point.
Um, just because you said that, one of my students asked me to kind of go deeper into FM synthesis the other day, and I was kind of struggling to describe what FM, like how you kind of get an ear for FM synthesis, right, rather than like
Hmm.
granular. And um, do you have any insights on that, like FM, or like what makes a good FM synthesizer, like what strengths, original strengths, did that does
I mean,
Serum have over Vital?
for me, it's just like the clarity of the sound that's being produced. Like when just the standard setup, you have an oscillator, you have two oscillators set up. One of them's got its volume turned all the way down, and then you're FMing the other one. So you're using the oscillator that has its volume down to frequency modulate your A oscillator, for example. And with that setup, you might be automating the FM knob, or you maybe just set it in place. Um, just the clarity difference between different synthesizers, like you're effectively, even if you're using the same wavetables and you're effectively doing the same thing, but something underneath the hood, whatever, however they have it coded, it just seems to sound different
It almost
in different
it
synthesizers.
almost feels like, recognizing a car based on an engine rev.
Yeah,
I
yeah, and it's
No, go on,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
on. No, no, no. Go on, please.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna keep saying like, yeah, you just like you can just hear it. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but like sometimes I felt like the FM and Vital was like it would kind of get this like smeared, like blurry sound in the high end. Where I mean, definitely have gotten some nice FM sounds in Vital, and maybe it's a user error, but I just find that like I'm getting these like really like almost like ripping, like these really clear, clean ripping sounds out of Serum is probably the best way I can describe it. Um, and it just like does really nice things in the high end where it's not like smearing or blurring or anything like that. And for me, that's like the main thing.
Do you think it has anything to do with the effects? Because I didn't really like Serum One effects, and I always thought Vital's effects were good in the sense that they do the job really well, but they're nothing to write
Hmm.
home about.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think, I don't
could
know. I
definitely
think
be
it could be
effects.
that.
Yeah, for sure. And to be fair, I thought about this. Like, I love the soft clipping distortion and Vital's effects, but I think I probably abuse it a little bit. And that's a soft clipper, and so there's definitely a chance that me using that heavily probably tends to take some clarity out of the high end at times. So it's definitely could be a product of me just the effects that I'm using in the different synths. So it could be that soft clipper I like to use in Vital, but yeah, the effects have a big. I do really like the chorus effect in Vital.
Yeah.
Um, that was like the main thing I was using, chorus and just distortion. And I didn't really mess too much with other stuff besides like phaser or whatever, but The effects in Serum 2 are really, really nice.
Yeah, they've really tweaked the algorithm and gotten things better under the hood. Uh, yeah, no complaints with Serum 2. Big win for the music industry as a whole, I feel like.
Oh yeah, and I feel like I'm just gonna have like more and more stuff to like discover on it every day, and so I've been trying to get in there as much as possible and just design some stuff. And
The
the fun thing about
manual is
designing,
300 pages.
yeah, it's ridiculous. The manual is crazy. I'm a huge manual guy. I love to read manuals and stuff, especially when I'm at work and I can't do anything production or art related. I like to read manuals. Uh, so that's fun. But yeah, 300 pages is crazy. That there's so much stuff packed into there.
Where do you work at? What do you do on your 9 to 5?
I work at a HVAC rep firm and I'm a project engineer there. So it's not super exciting stuff, but it's pretty chill, not very stressful, which is my main thing. Like as long as I'm not taking home stress from it, like I'm good. And I only go into the office 3 days a week and I leave at 4. So it's like, it's honestly like the perfect balance with trying to pursue music and art on the side.
The
So
double life
no
of the modern day artist, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I appreciate having the job so much, honestly, because obviously it'll be great one day doing art full time and music full time, but I just know for a fact that when that day comes, it's gonna be a lot more new introduced stress of trying to support yourself with your creativity. And so I really am appreciative of having something, supporting my music while I can just kind of like focus on having fun and being creative and not worrying about, getting that next payment from whatever promoter so I can pay rent or something.
Oh
But
yeah,
I'll be there eventually.
being a starving musician. Well, so I kind of want to ask, like, what's that like? Or not? Most of the artists that I've talked to on the show have had full-time jobs, but what's really interesting to me is it almost feels like like you're Superman, like you have this whole like hidden identity. Because I mean, with a name like, and I really wanted to ask you like, what made you pick your name, Mind Splitter?
Yeah.
Obviously, straight to the point. You're making very experimental music, and I think you're really trying to get in. You think you're really trying to get into people's heads.
Uh-huh.
I love that. Like I really gravitate towards that. So what got you what got you into that? What really made you want to make music that breaks people's minds open?
Gosh. Yeah, when I started getting into electronic music, I was listening to like, the very basic stuff that everyone else was. I mean, and then just over the years it kind of devolved into more and more experimental, crazy, weird stuff. But I've always had a love for just like mind bending type sounds and going to a show and hearing that one song that just like makes you like speechless, especially like paired with a crazy visual. And that those were always my favorite moments. So I wanted to create a project where, that was part of it. And so obviously Mind Splitter, like you said, it definitely like points to the obvious of like, splitting minds, or like it's like another way to say like blowing minds or something.
Yeah.
But it's also like it was kind of like double, triple meaning where it implies like other stuff as well. Like so Mind Splitter, split, implying two different sides. So like I want to have two different sides of the project in more than one way. One of the ways is, I'm doing audio and then I'm also doing my visuals. So there's two sides there. And then also, although I haven't released much of it, I make like other more chill melodic music, still like with a trippy edge to it, but I'm not gonna just always be releasing just like, banger-esque music. Like I want to be able to kind of make whatever I want. So I liked the name that implied that there was like multiple sides to what I was doing. So it kind of worked out in like multiple ways there.
I I love your pursuit, or I love what you're pursuing, because that is my favorite part about the scene too. It's never really, I mean, the psychedelics or no psychedelics, there's always been that moment throughout my music my life where I've been at a music festival or a concert. I feel like that's what I'm seeking out. It is those moments where I'm
Mhm.
left speechless, where I'm like, what the fuck was that? And the more I
Yeah.
learn, sometimes it's harder to get that because I'm in music now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I'm learning more about music, and I envy people who know less than me now because I'm like, fuck, they're probably getting that.
Yeah. No, I feel that so much. Yeah, that's a huge thing with anything. Like the more you learn the thing that you love and are passionate about, it's harder to get that magic feeling from it, unfortunately. But it's fun to keep chasing it, and when you do find it from an artist, it is like super cool and inspiring. And yeah, but like you said, it definitely becomes harder the more you learn. Because instead of just taking it in, like, wow, that sounds insane, you're like, I wonder how they made that, or I wonder what that is. And it's like,
And then and
you
sometimes you
forget to
figure
just
it
take it
out.
in.
Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, they probably did this, and yeah, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you think and the magic's gone a little bit. Um, but does that influence you? Like, do you think about that when you make music? Like, this has to be like, does it have to split your mind before you release it?
Yes, that's like a huge struggle because like when I was first releasing stuff, like my first few releases were like a year apart. Like I was taking so long to put out the next thing. And it's because I was spending so long like on the smallest details and making sure each moment was like I was capitalizing on each moment of the song and hoping that it had a certain effect on people. But like that's like a cool thing to like aim for, but also it can be debilitating. And that's kind of like where like perfectionism comes into play in like a
Yeah.
negative way. Is you focus too hard on like how is this going to be received? Is this going to blow their mind? Like, oh, I need to make it cooler. I need to make it bigger. I need to make it, whatever. So I'm trying to like get away from that a little bit. Like obviously that's still the goal, but I'm trying to like be a little more lenient on myself and not every moment or release needs to be like the magnus opus of blowing someone's mind. So, and some of my songs like definitely aren't centered around that. Like I try to have the moments in there that are like really like memorable. But it's not always just going to be like a sound design spectacle or whatever. But you can make up for it in other areas.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. I That kind of leads me to a couple questions, which I'll start with. Do you have a favorite song that you've released that you're either happy or unhappy that got the response it did? Like, is there just one that you're
Hmm.
like, fuck yeah, like this song is me, and like I want my fans to listen to
Let
this.
me. I think I have one. I'm trying to like remember in case I'm forgetting one, but I would say for a long time it was probably my song. What's it called?
Because
Or
is tight, by the way, like mega tight. As
thank you
far
so
as
much.
like execution in that idea, man. Like, I know that you paired visuals with that, and it goes with the album art. And I've seen some of the stuff that you were working, like some of the animations on Instagram.
Uh huh.
But I just like that song is sick. Like I said, well executed.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. Like recently, I'd say overall, maybe one of the ones that first jumped to mind, if it wasn't With the Birds, like I still listen to With the Birds sometimes, and I'm kind of like surprised. I'm like, damn, I can't believe I made that back then. But Suspended in Time is probably the one that first pops in. It's not necessarily like the craziest drops or anything, but just it encapsulates like a lot what I want to do with the project. Like it starts off with this like really ambient, like vocally glitchy, trippy atmosphere, and it's kind of like this chill, like these um, like keys and stuff just on this beat at the beginning, and then it eventually kind of devolves into a drop, and then it kind of picks up the pace and it has like these like breaks that are like very big and kind of dramatic and pretty. And so it kind of like encapsulates a bunch of different sides of what I want to do into one thing. And then I was able to pair visuals with it that kind of like in my mind fit the audio exactly. So like it was a very satisfying thing to finish that one and package it the way it was. And then it ended up doing pretty well. I mean, on SoundCloud at least. And got some good attention. So I would say that's probably one of my favorites still. I don't know if it's my best song, but it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of why I asked the question because I it's cool to know. You know, now whenever I listen to that, I'll probably have that context. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
do you? I couldn't find a lot of live sets from you. Have you played a lot of shows? Do you DJ a lot?
I haven't played too many. I played a few. I just played my first headline in Atlanta in February at Aisle 5 here, which was a really cool
That sounds awesome, man.
experience.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't like, a crazy turnout or anything, but it was a successful show and it was a really good experience, like, going through the motions and the process of that and what all goes into it. And so that was cool. And then I played a few different shows here and there, some in Denver, Kansas City, Alabama, and I got another one in Alabama actually coming up in June. But yeah, I haven't played a ton of stuff, just here and there. So
Yeah, yeah. I was well, are you touring coming up? Because I've seen some shows coming up on Instagram.
other than I'm opening for SFAM, direct support for them in
That's the one
where's
I
that?
was thinking of.
Huntsville.
That was the main one I
Yeah,
was
that's the
thinking
one
of.
that just got announced recently. So that's the next one I got coming up. But other than that, nothing else really in the books. But hopefully that changes pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah.
But like
What
I'm not rushing it or anything. I'm just kind of taking it as it goes.
I think that's the best way to go about it, man. I mean, especially if you want to remain stress free. Hell yeah, I'd like keep doing that. Uh,
Yeah, playing shows is like one of the most stressful things for me. I'm actually like a really introverted person. Um it's just like, I mean, like even pushing myself to post on social media, especially if I'm in it, is really hard for me. And then playing a show and the process of prepping for that and like going on stage in front of people is like a very like stressful thing for me. So it's nice when I don't have a lot of stuff happening, but also I know I need to get those reps in and it helps a lot. But yeah, it's definitely hard for me now. And I imagine sometimes like when I'm prepping for a show and playing, I'm like, I can't imagine doing this, 5 nights a week or whatever it is, a couple nights a week for half a year, like some of these guys do. Like that must be brutally tiring. But
yeah,
I think you probably eventually just get used to it and it becomes just how you're living.
yeah, yeah. No, I feel that. Do you DJ like as a hobby?
Yeah, so I DJ'd as a result of producing rather than the
Right.
other way around. Like I started producing and then I started DJing because I had to learn in
Yeah.
order to perform.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so-
I've met a lot of artists like that, and I'm just the opposite. I started out as just bar DJ essentially, and then really got into
uh,
production. So I was just wondering which
that's
order.
some valuable experience that I wish I had. Like I know plenty of people that's how they started as well, is doing like open format stuff and just DJing a lot, whether it be weddings, bars, whatever. And that must be really nice to get all that practice in. So it's kind of like I've been like learning at the same time as I've been producing.
It
But
gets you used to the I'd say it gets you used to the environment because personally I didn't like DJing all of the music that I didn't, fuck with.
mhm,
But you did say kind of like getting your reps in, right?
yeah.
Practicing just like beat matching and dealing with the crowd
Uh-huh.
is totally something worthwhile, I guess
Yeah.
getting in. So,
And
um,
I think that definitely like influences like my style of DJing is I really like plan my stuff out. And that's probably because, I feel like if you're someone that comes from DJing first, you probably won't tend to plan your stuff out as much. But I like to like you really like know what I'm gonna be playing and when and plan out special moments and all that. But I also enjoy like the cinematic moments and like the grandness that comes with like planning stuff out meticulously. So that's what I'm like definitely striving for. And that'll definitely be more possible once I like have access to larger production and stuff. But I go to concerts and see people, like to name a few, like people like Ellis Stream or Enzo or Rez, and just like the spectacle they put on and how meticulous it is. And they have these like really special moments that are memorable. And that's definitely what I strive for. So then that kind of just lends itself to being where I have to like plan shit out song for song.
Yeah, yeah. I used to. I think I hold a mixed or balanced take on that, which is I've really practiced hard with mixing bass music to achieve like these mind splitting moments, but with freestyling, rather specifically with freestyling rather than pre-planning. And here's the thing, pre-planning is sick. Like I think it's very important to, at least if you're, I don't think pre-recording your set is cool, but like
Oh
knowing
yeah, that
exactly,
sucks.
that's some bullshit that people could be doing out there.
Yeah, big difference too. I feel like maybe a lot of people like, or just like the common show goer might not know the difference between pre-planned and pre-recorded.
Yeah.
But big difference.
Big one, big one. You pre-recorded is not cool. Just not at the end of the day. I feel like I've seen a lot of simps or people simp online for pre-recorded sets, but I don't think it's called
Yeah,
for
I just
ever.
think it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, agreed. Like, yeah, just hit play and
Yeah.
walk off stage,
And walk
have
into
a
the
beer.
crowd and just hang out and watch it with everybody.
Exactly.
Which if that's what you want to do, then that's cool. Like if you're making like a full-on hour film that
Yeah.
goes with your music, then sure. And I think I didn't go to the show, but my girlfriend, one of her favorite shows she went to was like a lab group show, and that was basically what it is. It was like a movie,
Oh,
and
that
they were
sounds
just straight up
so
like
cool.
they were DJing, but like a lot of the times he would just be like turning around watching it with everyone, and I was like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
if you make a movie, like I would probably too.
When I saw G Jones at Red Rocks, I had a small epiphany, which was along these lines of, oh, he may not be, he's not DJing, right? Like he's not, or I don't, he didn't have a set of controllers in front of him. It was a little bit like a setup, and I think there was some hardware and a laptop, and there was a lot of MIDI setup, but there wasn't, a traditional mixing setup. And so that got me thinking, like, well, he's not mixing, he's not freestyling, he's not smashing together songs. But then I thought what he really is doing is he's putting on a showcase, rather than a performance, is kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, there's so many different forms that this can come in. Even just the way things have shifted over the years of what a live show is and what it can be. It's like there's so much room for different variations of how you display your art. So I mean, I'm open to all of it.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of art, dude.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it's important for me to have. I mean, the thing that's difficult is I'm a very heavily like visual person. So, I go through all the work to do the visuals to match the music and stuff. But it's funny, like when you're starting out and you're not, on tours and stuff yet, you don't usually have access to a giant LED wall or a VJ that's practiced and knows exactly when to cue certain things up. So it's like you don't really get to realize your full vision. So you kind of have to just deal with it for a while. So that's kind of an annoying aspect.
Right.
But, that just makes it more fun because it's something to work towards and,
I think
it'll be fun.
Yeah, you kind of have to adapt, roll with the punches, at that stage.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the other thing I wanted to ask you was, man, you're doing all of your own visuals. Like that's got to be mega time consuming to pair with your art or your musical abilities. Do you you said you started both of those around the same time, right?
Well, I started the Mind Splitter project when I started doing visuals, but I had been producing since around like 2017 or so. But then it wasn't. Well, actually, I shouldn't say so. 2020 is when I picked up Blender and like started taking visuals like more seriously, or I guess just like starting to learn Blender. But actually, I did 3D animation and stuff like that all the way back in middle school. I know I mentioned it briefly.
Did you do Scratch?
Recording. Huh?
Did you ever use Scratch? A program called Scratch?
I used to use something called Cinema 4D.
Oh wow, they had that in your middle school?
Yeah, well, no, my middle school didn't have it. It was this was just during middle school. So
Oh, okay, okay.
I was making Call of Duty like edits and montages back then. I was like really into like the gaming, I guess, community
You were
on
fucking
YouTube.
poning on fucking kids.
Yeah, so like I would like edit other people's clips and stuff and I got like really, crazy with it and was taking 3D character models and rigging them and animating them and 3D tracking them into like a scene in the video game. And I was making like, I would spend like a month on a 30-second edit for a clip. And so that's when I first kind of like started learning 3D, but then I abandoned that like early into like, I guess, high school time. And then I didn't end up picking it back up again until about 2020. So I had a little bit of like pre-exposure to it, but I was still learning from the beginning. But it definitely helped to have all that background and like to where it wasn't all just like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like this before. It was okay, I'm kind of familiar with what a 3D viewport is and what a character model is and what a an armature is and stuff like that. But yeah.
How do you go from kind of basic knowledge like that? And I hope this is phrased right, but how do you go from basic knowledge of animation, which is kind of where I'm at, to really cool, mind bending, artwork? And what I mean by that is there, math equations that you learned, like fractals? Did you get into fractals? What was really, yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's so there's like so many different kinds of ways like that you can get visuals, but most recently I have been using something called geometry nodes within Blender. I don't know if you saw my most recent videos with my new song It Can Go, but those visuals are they're almost fractally looking, but they're three-dimensional and they kind of look like kaleidoscopy, but it's actually 3D space. That's all in Blender using something called geometry nodes, which is basically like coding, but without actually having to pull out.
It's just like wires, right?
Code.
Like that
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah, exactly. You're connecting in and out sockets between different nodes that are referring to different math operations, and that's really kind of like opened up the door for me recently with like unlocking the ability to do more trippier, organic, cool stuff, is because you can create these crazy animations that are kind of procedural where it's all based on these nodes and these numbers you're setting, and you can get it to do a certain thing you want, something that would be almost impossible to do if you were doing it manually. And then if you want to make any adjustments, it's just a matter of changing numbers or automating a different setting, and all of a sudden you have a whole new result. And so that's kind of like been blowing my mind and opening up a lot of like possibilities with my visuals recently.
yeah.
Whereas before I wasn't doing any of that. It was like mostly like environment design, like for X11B, like the music video, like that's just me like 3D modeling a scene and texturing it and animating some parameters for like deforming that little blob thing and stuff. But it would be almost impossible to try to do like some of the more recent stuff I've done like manually like that. But yeah, so geometry nodes is basically like math, but without having to be a fucking genius.
And that's within Blender, right?
That's within Blender, and it's like a semi-recent development now. I mean, it's been years, but like they're still constantly updating it and improving it, and it's super overwhelming and intimidating, and I kind of avoided it for a while.
Yeah.
And then I finally decided to kind of dive into it more this last year. And it's been really, really cool.
Well, my friend, I want to know if I can put you on game, and to anyone who's listening to the show, like, this is what I'm about to say is very important information. Have you, so the first part, have you ever heard of Magic Visuals?
Is that like a person?
No, it's a software.
Magic Visuals. I don't think so. No.
So I kind of discovered it in my senior year of college, which is, oh my God, like, yeah, definitely about 5-6 years ago now. And it's totally a low-key software. Like, it hasn't been adopted or adapted by anyone large, I think, yet. Mm-hmm. And it's still like, the website also looks like it's from 2008.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah. And but do not let that fool you. This is the coolest software that one of the coolest softwares that I think exists. So I have the pro version of it, and it's all geometry nodes, so it's super user friendly, and it's really good at just for you can put in 3D objects and shaders. But I just got to say, it is a tool worth having because. I don't know. Check it out. I've used it to make sound reactive visuals. If you go to my YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. I made everything with Magic.
The icantproduce channel.
No, look up braV likes bass, and you'll find some music videos on my braV channel. Let me know if you find it, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And so check one of those out real quick. Any one of them, I think I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, these are dope.
So I made it with Magic. It's a little limiting by this, like it's not Blender, right? Like you don't have an environment that you're working with. But it's all node-based geometry, and the real-time engine is really good. So you can set an audio source and render, basically get a real-time preview and then render a video. Very, very good for that.
That's really sick. So is it like essentially like 2D, like you have a fixed camera and then you're just manipulating what's seen in view? Or?
Yeah. I haven't done anything with camera angles, so it's all 2D, but I trick it to make 3D looking animations. And one way that I do that is there's an effect, or like there's a stock effect called star field, and that is a 3D that's a 3D scene, but generally it handles PNG pictures really well. It can take that transparent background, and that's once you have a PNG of an object, you can do some things to make it look like it's doing some 3-dimensional movement.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll definitely have to check that out.
But yeah, and then but here's the part too. I recently discovered. Have you ever heard of Touch Design?
Yeah, Touch Designer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I
haven't messed with it, but I've just seen the crazy shit people make with it.
I was not hip until about a month ago when I was looking at trying to make really cool 3D lifetime visuals. And buried within a Reddit comment, there was a guy who said, check out this open source alternative called Tool 3. So it's TOOLL, 2 L's 3. It's basically open source Touch Designer. And it's
cool.
Like, anyways, those are the two softwares that I think are like hacks in the game right now. So definitely check them out. You're a much more talented visual artist than me. So I'd be really interested to see what you got going on.
You gotta love open source stuff. It's wild. I mean, just like even Blender being open source and free is just insane because it's gotten so powerful that it's almost become standard in like certain areas of industry. And
didn't it win, or somebody made a film that won an award with Blender this year? Like that's a huge win.
I think it was called Flow. And it's on my watch list. I can't believe I haven't seen it yet because I'm like the biggest Blender fanboy of all time. But yeah, it won a fucking Oscar. I think maybe best animated film or something. I can't remember what the title was, but it literally won against Disney. Like that's insane.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge win.
The team was relatively small. Like it's a fairly small team of people that made that, and the ones that were actually involved with like the visuals was probably even smaller. Whereas when you're going up against a Disney or Pixar film, that's hundreds of people. So
with proprietary software that they built specifically for that fucking
it's
movie.
Just wild that people are able to be that successful with the free software. And in a world where everything's so expensive, there's a million subscriptions and other 3D software and professional stuff is just ridiculously expensive. And it's just so cool that anybody can go download Blender and start messing around and also going on YouTube. And there's just so many creators that are making a ton of amazing tutorials and full-on courses for Blender for free. And it's allowed me to learn, which has been great. So I'm always thankful for the tutorial making people out there.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm a bit of a purist, but when my philosophy boils down to open source is just better than anything that you can really make for proprietary or software, or sell, like, because you have a community and you can handle all of the
Yeah.
problems, and there are ways to make things open source as well as paid models for the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a good vibe.
it's a
It's
great,
like everyone like working on it together. There's amazing add-ons that people release, and entire like jobs have been created based on it. Like people that make these like 5, 10, 15, even $100 add-ons for Blender that make its abilities way stronger, and now all these other people have careers because of that. So it's really cool.
it is not cool. Yeah. Don't gatekeep. Like, at least no gatekeeping here, there's
Exactly.
yeah, and that's what I feel like paid software is, like Adobe, and I mean, I don't know much about Touch Designer, but Adobe, I'm thinking,
Adobe's gotten ridiculous.
yeah, oh, they're the worst. I would reckon.
love to be in the latest Photoshop, because Photoshop is what I've always used, but I just can't do that that monthly fee, and especially not being a student anymore, not being able to get the discount.
If I may ask, how old are you?
I'm 27. I'll be 28 in a couple months.
Cool, same here. We're the exact same
Oh, hell
age. Yeah. What's the Atlanta based scene like? Do you get a lot of good responses for your music and shows out there? Yeah.
Atlanta's pretty great. It's definitely like grown, and like I know a lot of like other producers. Some big names have moved down here. I can't remember all of them, but we've got amazing shows. It feels like weekly, so there's never a shortage of stuff going on, and like the fan base is just growing and growing here. Um, I don't I don't necessarily like feel like super deep within it. I'm friends with some producers here that are doing very well. Are you familiar with Stash, his music?
I am. I rip his Baby Keem flip all the time when I play anything.
Oh yeah, that one's sick. Yeah, he's been blowing the fuck up. I roomed with him and my other friend Austin, or Austin Space, also a really good producer. And then I actually met Nathan, or Stash, through this other group. It was actually like the very first producers I became friends with. They had
Oh,
a
that's so
collective.
cool.
Yeah, they had a little collective here in Atlanta called GWub. And so I went from like the first few years of producing, I didn't know anybody, so it was just me by myself, to meeting them, and then all of a sudden I had like a handful of people that I was friends with locally, and now a lot of them are all doing, well, pretty much all of them are doing very well right now. And yeah, Stash has been blowing up, and the others are starting to get some big recognition, so it's been really cool watching everybody grow.
What song do you think got like opened the most doors for you? Would you say?
Um,
Unless that question's
I
not.
honestly don't know. I don't feel like it was anyone. Like I don't think I've had that like big hit where I'm like, wow, that changed my life, that some people have, and I think it'll come for sure, but
Yeah.
I don't have that yet. I think I have a lot of like well-performing stuff, but yeah, I don't think that there's like one song that's like opened up more doors than the other.
Have you submitted
Other than just
anything to like a label yet?
Yeah, so that's actually something that I'm really going to start focusing on, because I generally don't submit anything to labels, because
Yeah,
I did a few times. So the very first time I submitted to a label was Webaholics, and it got accepted, and that song actually, that would be one of the ones that opened up doors, just because that was my first label release with my friend Sushi Main, who actually is an Atlanta guy too, and I met through the GWub group.
I
Um,
love me some Sushi Man.
oh hell yeah, yeah, Sushi Main's dope. And very talented. But yeah, so our song "Shot Colors" went on Webaholics, and that got some recognition. Got onto like the Liquid Stranger playlist on Spotify, so that was cool, and got played out by some bigger names and stuff. But yeah, that was like, so I submitted to that label, and then I kind of stopped for a long time. And then Spicy Boys reached out to me. Are you familiar with like Spicy Boys and Miso?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Miso reached out to me, and it's like I wouldn't have even I wouldn't have been submitting stuff just because I just hadn't been, but he reached out, which was really nice, and I was able to show him a couple IDs, and so I released with them, and then solely, my third and last label release was a remix for him on his remix album. But other than that, I haven't. So the only one I really submitted was the Wakan one. I mean, not the Wakan one, the Webaholics one. And the reason why I haven't been submitting is I take longer to finish tracks, I think, than a lot of people. I spend a lot of time, sometimes way too long. It's not like a flex that I'm taking too long. Like it's like I probably should be finishing quicker.
Well, you also, like I was trying to mention, you handle your visual art. That takes a huge amount of time.
That definitely slows me down because I can't just finish a track and be like, all right, time to submit
move on to the next
who wants
one.
the track. It's like, no, now I got to spend a few weeks developing visuals for it. And by the time I actually have the track ready to go, it's been 2+ months, ideally less, since my last release. And it's like I could submit to a few labels and wait around for responses for a few more months and just stunt my growth like that. Or I can just release this. And I'm getting at that point, like, I feel like I'm getting good traction on my releases. Like maybe they don't come out of the gate swinging like a label release might, but over time they're gaining traction. So I just didn't feel like it was that important for the label releases. But more recently, I've started to realize that I really do need to be focusing on labels now at this point. Like I've gotten to a point where I think I'm positioned well to actually be releasing on these labels.
Are you saying that you need to be like consistent with your heavy hitters once you start releasing on labels? Because like you just kind of have to like keep them coming,
I feel like in general you just got to keep them coming. And like I feel like if I was going to be submitting to labels, it was going to really stall my releases where I'm just trying to build a base. And at this point, I feel like I have a solid base. So
yeah,
I feel now that I'm trying to gather some tracks to submit, and it'll really help me break into things like Spotify. I think Spotify and other streaming platforms can really benefit from labels because they have connections with certain playlists, and that's kind of like the only way.
Oh yeah,
really
because you can get placed on those label playlists on
Spotify. And then when the label pitches your track to like editorial playlists, those editorials are like, okay, we just got to submit from got a submission from this label, let's actually like pay attention to it.
What's
versus when you're just a random
playlist, guy like chill music to work out or chill music to study to type, like, is that what an editorial playlist is?
It's like, I don't know are you on Spotify at all?
Yeah, but I just use it
all the biggest playlists are editorials pretty much. So like the Trap Mojito, Bass Arcade, Dubstep Dawn, all of those are editorial playlists, and that's like really how you kind of blow up in bass music is getting onto those playlists. I mean, it's not the only way, but it kind of feels like that, and it's so hard. There's a million songs getting pitched every day to those playlists, so I feel like one of my only ways I'm going to get in there is through labels. So I'm like, all right, time to stop messing around and actually send my stuff out. Regardless, because I think it just needs to happen. And then, I mean, that's just one of the benefits. Obviously, you're getting connections with more artists and you get a little bit of, street cred per se, which helps. But yeah, I can't remember how that question started. I don't even know if I ended up answering what you asked, but
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember either, but we got there.
But yeah, I'm focused on that this year for sure. I'm going to definitely start submitting stuff again.
Well, dude, you've got the sauce, man. And it sounds like you're surrounded by like talent and good people and good vibes that are probably contributing to this recipe, low key.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I agree. I feel
it. Well, I think that's a good way to segue into, would you mind maybe opening a track in Ableton and breaking it down? Maybe like something, anything really. Sweet.
Do you have a request?
Something you think is cool, released or unreleased, like how, like it's just a project really.
Let me see.
But no, I have no preference really. Anything you want to share, I'll learn something either way, most likely.
I could open up my latest release. I feel like that would make sense.
Yeah, let's do that.
Actually, and while I open this, I know this is live and probably unprofessional, but can I click open and then run to the bathroom and run back?
Oh yeah, go for it. I can install. Right. I can practice my radio voice.
I've been sipping on this Celsius. And,
yeah, that'll run right through you. Go do your thing, man. I'll be right here.
All All right, sounds good. I'll be right back.
Dope. In the meantime, looks like we got a couple people watching. How are we feeling today, y'all? I think this interview is going well. He can't hear me. Well, maybe he can. Maybe someone's listening. Maybe he'll hear this in the future. But I think it's going well. I think he likes me. Just kidding. I don't know. Mind Splitter. So this is the song we're going to break down. I'm going to start playing it right here. It can go. I'll play the main drop here for a second. Uh-oh. Waiting. Is it going? Nope. Why? Help. Uh-oh. There we go. Technology. All right, so here's the drop, everybody. Spicy.
All right, we're back.
I was just listening, or we were just listening to the drop for It Can Go.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Which that it can go pretty damn hard. That was a.
I have my microphone turned on and I'm hearing feedback from myself. So let me go disable
No problemo.
my input device. Boom. Okay, cool. So it's not the most organized project right now. But what do you think you'd be most interested in checking out? Just to start, I can go over anything. I can start at the beginning, whatever.
Let me listen to. Just for my own benefit, I want to see how you separate your subs and like your. I want to see your sound design and then your sub. Really.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. Can you see my screen?
Yes. 1 second though. I gotta put it in the right place.
And I might scale up my view. Just so it's easier to see since we're streaming. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
I'm trying to make it go full screen here. I feel like an old man.
Try to make this look a little cleaner real quick.
There we go.
Make that go away. Boom. All right. Sound design. So I guess I can go over the main leads on the drops first, and then we can go over like kind of what I did for the bass. But
Yeah. So I'm interested because obviously you have that really sharp lead sound, but I'm it sounds like there's a little Reese or like chorus going on too.
like the kind of splinky sound or like the background like sustained.
The splanky sound.
Ready. Yeah, so that's you getting that audio?
Yeah, I can hear that.
So I think the sound, if I remember correctly, is actually really simple. It all comes down to the wavetable I picked, which already sounded great. So this is a very simple sound, as you can see.
Oh, you know what I can't see? I can't see your plugin. I can only see your Ableton.
Oh, okay. Let me just go change my
to share screen.
Yeah, share the screen instead of screen one. Boom. All right. You should be able to see the vital now.
Yeah. Oh, I can also hear myself though.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Can you play the track? Ooh, yeah, I can't hear that. Oh, wait, no, I hear it. But I just hear myself too. Maybe you can turn my volume down and
because I'm you're hearing yourself because I'm sharing my audio. I wonder if I can select my my change it to like just Ableton's audio versus
yeah, normally you have to go share application audio, but but I understand why I'm hearing myself. What you should do is you should turn down my volume and then just maybe treat it like a lesson, like a small lecture for 5 minutes or something.
Okay. So I won't be able to hear you for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
So just maybe we'll just treat this like as a breakdown of your a breakdown of your new track.
Yep. Now I'm
All
trying
right.
to figure out how to turn your volume down.
Oh, yeah, we're on a 1-to-1 call. You should be able to though.
Yeah, usually you like right click. Here, I'm gonna stop streaming for a second. There you go. All right, I'm gonna turn you down and I'm gonna share again.
All right, cool. I'll message you if I have something to say.
Yeah, true. I'll keep my phone open. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna keep you like 10%. So that probably shouldn't be a big deal.
Nah, we'll be good.
All right, time for a little solo one-on-one time. All right, so this main sound, I'll just play the drop real quick. All right, so this first sound, the splinky one, there's so much track delay. I think let me just turn this from 16 times oversampling to like 2 times. That should help. Cool. All right. Anyways, so this sounds pretty simple. It's this wavetable acid burnout, which my main wavetables I use are Glork wavetables. I don't know if you've heard of that, but they're amazing. He actually has some stock. I'm sure you have if you use Vital because he has some stock wavetables that came out with Vital. But he has 2 other packs. One of them, the first one is actually free now, I think, and then the second one's like $5 or $10. But these are my favorite wavetables. They're so good. They just sound so good right off the start, right off the bat. I mean. And then you can just do like minor, just like distortion and filtering and movement, automating like some of these knobs or the wavetable position, and then you immediately get some crazy results. So this is one of those instances where it was a very simple, just picked the acid burnout wavetable, and then I'm modulating, I believe, am I modulating the level with this one? Yeah, I'm modulating the level with this LFO. I'm also modulating. I'm not actually doing anything with the form scale. That was left over from something, but it's bypassed right now. And then I'm modulating this low pass filter. And then I'm automating the wavetable position to get the different. That's something I really like doing. You can just kind of like move the wavetable position around, and you get all these different tones and character. From just based on where you put it. So you can kind of like, you can play the same note while it feels like, all different kinds of tones. And then processing is very simple. I just have some chorus with the mix down, and then I'm just kind of filtering out the lows, and then I have the voices. I find if I keep the voices at 16 on Vital, it sometimes gets to be a little too much with the chorus, so I usually turn it down. It ends up being a little cleaner, especially for like mono compatibility. I feel like the more voices, the more hectic it gets. And then I have some soft clip distortion, which this sounds really good on most things. I'm always using the soft clip. Sometimes some of the others like Seinfeld or whatever. So that's pretty much it for this sound. It was very simple. I didn't go too crazy on it. The sustain sound, this one. Well, that's actually just the sub, which for the sub on this one, I probably, usually for my sub, what I'll do is I'll literally just take a sine wave and play it. And here's the actual sustained. and then I'll just cut the sub. Very standard, just cut the sub out of the main thing. Other times, I think on I actually have multiple sounds where I don't cut the sub out. I'm actually playing, keeping the sub within the sound, and they're not separated. Sometimes it sounds fine like that, and there's not really a point to trying to separate them. Also, when you separate your sub and your bass, sometimes you can run into issues. Like you can introduce issues from doing like hard low passing or high passing. You can introduce like weird peaks and stuff to where they don't really mix together well. So that's definitely something to pay attention to when you're doing like aggressive cutting in the low end. Fab filter helps with that a little bit because it has like some higher quality algorithms with like linear phase and stuff, but even that can sound kind of weird, funky sometimes. But this is the main sustained. This is probably a very simple sound as well. Oh, I guess I should cover the processing of the plucky sound. I just have some pretty standard EQing, taking out a little bit of the low mids, some amp, some more. I think the high end ended up being a little too sharp after adding that amp, so I dipped it out a little bit. And then some digital clipping at the end, some soft clipping, just to kind of reduce the peaks and allow me to get a little more loudness out of it. And then when I bounced it to audio, which is this track right underneath it, I didn't really do anything else. I think it's all disabled. Anyways, back to the sustain. This is probably a very simple sound. Yeah, it's just a good wavetable with a form of a band pass. It's not completely passing the other frequencies. It's more of like a notch, or just like a peak. But yeah, I think I'm just like playing this wavetable sustained, and then I have some OTT, or not OTT. I mean, kind of is, but it's just multi-band compression. And some soft clip distortion like last time. So that one was a very basic sound for the sustain. And then I think I'm automating the wavetable position. That's kind of why it sounds like it's like going down. Okay, and then for this second, kind of like the response section of the drop, I think I am just modulating the form scale here. I'm turning that knob down because I think in this first part it's up, and then on this section I turn it down, which is a really nice way to get variations in your sound by using these warp knobs. They're really good. This one, form scale and vocoder are really fun. Really, all these are really fun to mess around with. And then bend, squeeze, and pulse are my favorites over here. And those are just give you cool tools to slowly kind of like change your sound over time and make it interesting. And then I'm probably doing a little bit of modulation at the end here. I'm probably just turning that form knob up at the end just to kind of take you into the next section. That's all the sounds in the first drop essentially. Except, actually, I didn't go over like the main kind of like ear tickly sound, wherever it is. All right, this sound pretty cool. I think it's another pretty simple sound. What am I doing here? I got another one of Glork's wavetables. I've got an LFO going really fast in triplets, automating a low pass filter. And then I think the wavetable position might be moving slightly, or maybe it's just the form scale, I think. Yeah. And then here, very basic again, just some compression and distortion. So all the sounds in this song are actually like fairly simple. As far as like how I got them, those Glork wavetables really help you get to a cool sound without doing too much. Then let's see drop 2.
Can you hear me? I got a question. I don't think he can hear me. He hasn't been seeing my messages.
So these sounds are a little bit more interesting. This is drop tier. I'll play the whole thing. All right, so this sound, I'll just break down a couple of the sounds. Again, Glork wavetables. I'm pretty much using them. This whole song is using Glork wavetables. Modulating this time skew. I think that's why I'm getting those crazy like changing sounds is by automating the time skew. And then at the ends of these little, I should probably turn on the automation view so you can see. I'm kind of automating some other things too. I'm automating the FM knob, which is using this triangle wave. The level's down, but I'm FMing. It's funny because I was just talking about how I didn't like Vital's FM that much, but I'm using it in this track. So I'm FMing oscillator 2, using oscillators 3's triangle wave, and I just kind of automated up towards the end here. Or actually just right here. It kind of just like adds this kind of like squealy distortion at the end. And then this automation actually is just the reverb throw. And I don't know if I need to go over the reverb throw. I feel like everyone talks about that, but it's just a rack I made with I like to use what's it called? Valhalla Vintage verb. I've been using some other verbs recently, but I use this one a lot, and then I'm just kind of automating the reverb up. And as I turn this reverb mix up, it's also turning threshold down on a compressor to really push the reverb tail. And then I have this compressor here that's actually side chaining the dry signal to where when the actual main sound's playing, it's not getting overcrowded by the reverb. But then as soon as the main sound kind of goes away, this opens up and then the reverb comes through a lot more. So that's nothing too crazy. Yeah, and at the beginnings, it's really fun, like, to use those knobs. I was talking about those warp knobs. It's really nice to kind of like introduce the sound by like, turning one of them from high up to down, and then also getting out of it. It's almost like these little transition moves to kind of like give it some movement in and out of the sound. Then that is just a riser I made. Nothing special there. I meant to find this sound. And I do want to point out this EQ here. I think it's important. I think a lot of, especially like starting producers, including me, I think a lot of people mistakenly just have so much going on in the high end where because they want a brighter, clear sounding mix, and they end up having too much going on because you have like hi-hats, you've got noise, and then you have your like main bass or synth playing, and then you'll have like all these high frequencies happening. But you'll be surprised how much cleaner the mix sounds when you just get rid of those, because you don't need it all there. The high end will start to fall apart real quick when you have too much shit going on. But I guess it depends what your taste is. I like cleaner, more like focused sounds, like where you can like, really like focus in on something. And when you have too much in the high end, it kind of just like is confusing and overwhelming to me sometimes. So I have that low pass. Like if I turn this off, it's just way too harsh too. It's like it's occupying that space where I already have like hats and stuff going on, so there's no point of having both of them, and it really cleans up the mix. This is another Glork wavetable. I mean, just simple moving, automating the form scale, the squeeze, just getting kind of evolving tones out of it by moving these knobs around. A little bit of coarse. I like to use coarse in really small amounts. It makes a big difference. When you overdo it, you'll lose a lot of weight to your sound, and it will start to sound cloudy and just not great. And when you keep it down low, it still provides a little bit of atmosphere and width and size in headphones without ruining your mix and your sound. So I'd be light with that, especially if you're going to use a compressor. Anytime you put an effect on before a compressor, you got to be careful because you're really going to bring out the quiet parts, which would be, the chorus or reverb or whatever you have before your compressor. So you just got to be careful. Unless that's what you're going for, then go for it. And then just one last sound. Oh yeah, another thing I want to cover that's actually one of my favorite things with Vital. Actually, I'm glad I remembered this. So I don't know if you have a stereo audio, but I'll just describe it. At the beginning of these sounds, it's like super wide to begin with, and then it kind of tapers off. And what I'm doing there is I'm automating this stereo knob right here. I'm automating it, right? It starts off up and then I bring it down. You can do whatever you want. You can just keep it in one place if you want. And all that's doing is it's offsetting the left and right channel. So you can actually see it. You can visually see the song progressing through the LFO shape, and you'll see two dots. One's the left channel, one's the right, and it just offsets them to where if I'm using this LFO to modulate, one of these warp knobs or the wavetable position or the pitch or whatever, it's going to be a slightly different signal in the left and right when you offset them because it's going to be at a different point. Like if your left channel is up here and your right channel is down here on the curve, that correlates to a different position on the time skew and on the wavetable, but it's not too different to where they're different sounds. It's just enough to where it creates a difference in the left and right channel, which creates crazy width. And the really cool part about it is you can get some really wide sounds that don't fall apart in mono. I feel like not a lot of people know about this, but I just kind of was messing around one day and realized how cool the stereo knob was. But it's a great way to get stereo width without ruining like your mono compatibility. So you see how they start off separated and then they slowly kind of regain unity. And the reason why I kind of modulate it down is because it's nice to have that width, but it can be too much to have the full way through. And it is nice to kind of bring the sound to the center and focus and make it have like its full power towards like the main part of the sound, if that makes sense. So that's a really nice tip. If you use Vital, I would definitely mess around with that.
Oh, can you can you hear me?
I love this part of the song, but this sound, this sounds a little more complicated. It's really cool actually. So I got a series. I'm actually a rare case of using all three wavetables. I don't do this very often, but basically what's going on here is this first wavetable is actually kind of like a supporting sound. The main sound is coming from this oscillator too. So if I take this off, you'll kind of still hear the same sound. But what I do with this sound is I'm automating the level to where it starts off high and it goes low. So this wavetable is a very it's kind of close to a sine wave. It's a very lower tone sound. It doesn't have a lot of harmonics. And at the beginning, when the sound first hits, it kind of fills those low mids and it has like a beefy sound. And then I kind of take it away to where it's nice to have it there for a second, but if it stays around for too long, it might start to sound muddy. So I kind of it's just a nice way to give some movement and progression to the sound. So it kind of hits hard at first, and then it kind of phases out and becomes a cleaner sound. You'll kind of hear it starts off woo, 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 and then it kind of that low mid kind of cleans up towards the end. But this is another Glork wavetable, and I'm using this LFO to modulate the FM up, and I'm using this third oscillator is just being used to frequency modulate the second one. So if I turn this off, so that sounds cool, but this kind of gives it more of like a I don't know, like more impactful, like concentrated sound, like more of like a whiny sound in the high end. It just sounds a little more rich with that 3 octave up sine wave being modulated into the sound over time. But I don't want to go on for too long because I know I had to turn braV down during this part for audio reasons, but I'll go ahead and turn him up because I feel like I've been blabbing for a long time. All right, I can hear you again.
Sweet. No, that was cool. That was very no. And you weren't blabbing for. I could have watched that for another until the end of the show, honestly. But
Well, good.
I wanted to. Wait, no. What were you saying?
I was gonna say hopefully some of that was useful. I know some of those sounds ended up not being as like interesting as I thought they would, but towards the end, I remembered a few different tricks I used that were actually like I think kind of were game changer for me. So hopefully those were helpful.
Absolutely. No, they were very helpful. I was hoping to get a clarifying idea on like sub mono compatibility. When like where and when you think it's a problem. Wait. I'm hearing myself and I think it's me now.
Oh, sorry. I started sharing my screen again. All right. You're good.
Sweet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just like so like what do you think is your most important rule when it comes to this mono compatibility with the sub? Like, do you have a hard cutoff at like 200 hertz?
Oh, like as far as like limiting like what's going on the sides?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's different for every track. Some tracks I'll do the whole mid-side EQing where you just go to your side channel. Have you messed around with that at all, doing like mid-side processing with an EQ?
Yes.
Yeah, so like I'll roll off the lows on the side channel just to ear for some tracks, and sometimes that's one of my last steps sometimes, and it ends up like really tightening up and cleaning the mix up, and that's always like a really cool like kind of final move. But you got to be careful because I also feel like I've kind of sterilized some tracks by doing that. Like I made them a little too clean, and it kind of lost some character and weight when I did that. So you kind of have to be careful and just do it to taste. Other than that, I mean, I obviously the sub I always keep mono. I mean, some people will say fuck it, make it stereo, but you know, I like to make it as clean as possible. And then for like, and you know, after the sub, you like 100 hertz and up or whatever, I'll try my best to keep the width down in the low mids, like, you know, like 100 to 300 hertz. But every once in a while I'll do a sound design or a sound where there is crazy width going on there. But as long as so what I have is on my master track, I have a utility where I mapped my M key for mono. I mapped it to the mono button on the utility. So I just kind of throughout the process, I do little checks just to make sure I'm not like absolutely destroying the mix by doing something. It kind of helps guide me. That way I don't find it out at the very end that I like based my whole song around something that like sounds like shit in mono. I've started to care a little bit less and less about that, but I still keep it in mind.
Yeah, that was something that it was very hard for me to learn or understand at first, and I've been getting. It's been a focus of mine recently, so that's kind of why I brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Even just like, rather than an actual like high pass or anything, even just like doing a little bit of like a bell filter, just a couple dB on the side channel and those low mids or something, sometimes can like really like center a sound and like clean it up. So it's like just little moves like that can be all you need. And sometimes I've realized that too. Like sometimes really small moves are what you should start with before you like over compensate and go, oh, this is muddy and the side channel is all out of whack, and cut it all out. Like sometimes it's just little moves that can make a huge difference.
That's really great insight, and I couldn't agree more. I kind of want to squeeze this last word. I think we will have time. We still got a little bit, but I wanted to really ask you about your arrangement style. Like, do you try and keep like your melodies pretty simple and then just tell a story with the sound design? And I don't know where that I think what I'm trying to say is I think you really shine in your arrangement. I've given that compliment out before, but I really do you spend equal time arranging that you do sound design, or like is it equally important in your mind?
Hmm. It's hard to say. It's like I've been back and forth because like when you start producing, and I'm sure you can relate, like when you're first learning, you don't really know how. Actually, it might be different for you because you came from DJing, so you're very familiar with how songs are laid out. But I didn't come from DJing, so when I got into it, my arrangement was a mess. Like I was doing all kinds of crazy shit. I was spending only 4/8 bars doing something, and I would switch to a completely different idea, and things weren't even like sectioned off in like the right amount of bars that are like known to be like normal arrangement. Like it was just kind of all over the place.
But that has to
Um,
contribute to kind of like the mind splitting factor of your.
yeah, and so I kind of like overcorrected. I feel like once I like learned more about that, I'm like, okay, I have to do it. I have to have, 16 bars here, 16 there, 8 for the bridge, blah blah blah. And having that knowledge definitely like helps guide me and start me, but I try to like still keep that creativity when possible and kind of like go outside the guidelines a little bit if necessary. So it's just like keeping like the core arrangement concepts in mind, but like being okay with like doing something a little funky sometimes, as long as it like feels okay when you're listening to it. But like I feel like I don't have a good answer for that because like I guess I'm not consciously thinking about it too much.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of just think about what feels like needs to happen now, and that's like what I've been trying to get better at. Like
I
rather
feel
than
like
being
that is
reactive.
arrangement, kind of like a
Yes.
conductor. It's, I think it's relates to storytelling, is like
Yeah.
what I would say.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, it's that's a hard one to answer. Honestly, it's like I don't know. I just kind of go with the flow and whatever happens happens. Sometimes I feel like my arrangement doesn't work out very well and I'm like this might be kind of jarring and not make a lot of sense. So I kind of
Yeah.
try to like I try to balance. It's like a balance between making something creative and cool and making something where people can understand it and digest it the first time. Because you're just like songs are just going to tend to perform better and be received better, especially in like a live setting. Like I feel like if they can understand what's happening, so I try to balance that and like being like interesting at the same time.
I think the best way to follow that up would be to ask if you had any favorite artists that are not EDM.
Yeah, let me think. I definitely have some. Let me go through. Let's see. Still Woozy. I love Still Woozy. I don't know if you listen to him. He's like more of like an alternative artist. I think it's just one guy, makes really cool music. I haven't listened to him a lot recently, but like Oliver Tree is really dope. Um, Jadu Heart. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I love them. I haven't listened to a lot of their newer stuff, but this one album by them, I think it's what is it? Melt Away is really fucking good. So I've been trying to like. Thankfully, my girlfriend has introduced me to like a lot of other stuff since I've known her, and it's like it really helps to listen to other kinds of music because it's like super inspiring and it helps you like kind of take some ideas from that and bring it back. But yeah, those are a few that come to mind that aren't bass music.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have a large love for all kinds of musics. I mean, you name it, jazz, blues, funk, rock. And I agree. I always consider it like exploring,
Mm-hmm.
musical ideas and arrangement ideas.
Yeah.
I was getting real heady with it earlier by thinking like, is bass music the best music? Is bass music the best music for splitting minds? Because
Uh-huh.
I've always compared what that feeling is in bass music to jazz, in the sense where it's like trying to break the rules in one way or another.
Yeah.
And that's usually what leaves you speechless and on the floor. Like, I had no idea you could fucking do that. And the only other real place I think I've experienced that is maybe in like a grandiose setting, like a musical or something, but really
Uh-huh.
like jazz, jazz,
Mm-hmm.
John Coltrane, jazz concerts. You feel there's a groove, but you feel the rules being broken. You know, that's kind of the
Yeah,
point of
is
the
it like
genre.
it's like the unpredictability of it that's like that becomes like mind blowing in it? Like you just don't know what's coming next kind of deal?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's probably a good way of putting it for sure. I was you don't know like it was kind of invented by breaking all of the
Uh-huh.
traditional traditional scales. So like yeah, the scales are a bit unpredictable, and it's all about where the song goes with all of these very strange breaks in the middle of them, or solos, or notes, or
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
I mean that's
no, go on.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
You
just gonna say, yeah, it
you
sounds like a
didn't.
great place to get inspiration from, like a completely different fucking genre, but just being like, whoa, that's crazy that they just like stopped that real quick and then started doing this and then looped that back around, and you're like, oh shit, like maybe I can try to do something like that with my weird bass sounds.
Yeah, I always thought. Yeah, I always just felt like there were different strategies for mind splitting music. So like, I feel like they're trying to accomplish the same thing, just in different ways. Like, bass
Yeah,
music is more about sound design and breaking those types of rules, but usually
yeah.
melodically and arrangement wise, I feel like you can almost call it pretty simple sometimes.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing. It's like it's like less because at the end of the day, like the the end product and avenue for the music we're making is a dance floor. Hopefully, it's. I mean, not always. Sometimes you're making music for people chilling at home and smoking weed and putting headphones on. But like a lot of it is like you're making music that people have to like understand in the moment and dance to, and that kind of comes from having an arrangement that's familiar. But you can still get that kind of wow factor by context, like you're where you decide to put a certain sound or the kind of sound that happens and surprise people like that versus surprising them with um the arrangement of it, because that just kind of becomes a little too confusing in a live setting. I feel like when people are used to the main like build drop bridge build drop kind of situation.
Yeah, I think it becomes more of like a philosophy thing, whether what you're making the music for. G. Jones is a really good artist, I think, at or example of somebody who kind of really blurs those lines. I don't know if you listen to a lot of him.
Sorry, who did you say?
G. Jones.
G Jones. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
love G Jones.
yeah.
He's one of the people like when I see live, actually I've only seen him live once, but like it was just in the middle of the day at a festival. It was like an early set. I'm dead sober, and it was one of the most memorable and mind blowing experiences of the whole weekend. And it was just like to be able to do that in the daytime, no drugs involved, is pretty impressive.
Agreed. Music is very, very powerful, and when I remember, it's funny you bring that up. When I saw him at Mission Ballroom, I've seen him a few times, but I saw him at Mission Ballroom in Denver, and when he was headlining, and when he was on stage, it was packed. And at Mission Ballroom, there's two bars on both sides of the venue, and I looked over at I was up in the bleachers essentially, and
Hmm.
on both sides I looked over at both bars, and there was absolutely no line at either, and I was like,
People are locked in.
yeah, I was like, that's crazy. Like that's what I want to do with my music. Like that is so
Right.
cool that there's no one at the bar. Everyone just wants to be like either on the floor or they came prepared with their own substances.
Yeah, you got to create something really captivating that just makes people not feel like if they left, they're gonna miss out on something.
Yep. Um. Yeah. 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 So it's funny you mentioned the sobriety thing, because usually people are getting hammered at shows.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think this is a good place to start winding down, brother. Do you have any like thing you want to plug, or like projects you're working on? You want to let some fans know, or wherever people find
Other than
this?
my new release, It Can Go, that just released last week, I got nothing else that's like on that's just about to release. So I think that's probably the only one I'll plug.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely my Instagram is where unfortunately the biggest outlet for my visuals is kind of Instagram, which is funny, and I'm trying to think of like that. I feel like that's just not right. Like, just I mean, obviously, I think it feels like that because I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like touring yet. And I'm playing shows here and there, but like once I'm touring, I'm getting my like visuals fully realized on a giant LED screen. It's gonna feel like it makes sense. But right now, like that's the main way to see the visuals I'm working on that go with the music.
Let me
I
know if you can
definitely
answer this question quickly. Do you run into compression issues with Instagram with your
oh
visuals?
yeah. Oh, it's bad, but I do have a tip for that.
Do you have a quick tip?
Um
A
I
hot
do have
tip?
a quick tip for that. So yeah, compression sucks. I started to really notice that during my X11B actually when I was posting those visuals I was working on because I spent so much time and then I'd post them and they were like so fucking blurry and like not sharp and I'm like that sucks. Um, but I've learned that so when you're uploading to Instagram, it's usually a 1080p video, like a 1080 by 1920. Um, but if you render stuff out at 4K, don't actually export at 4K and upload to Instagram at 4K because then it's going to just compress even more and destroy your quality. But if you so say I render stuff out in Blender at 4K, or if I'm not doing Blender, if I'm just taking videos, I'm recording at 4K. When you're editing that in your editing software, I use DaVinci, you could use After Effects, Premiere, whatever you use. When you take a 4K video and you render it out at 1080p as like the final video you're going to upload to Instagram, you're effectively oversampling your 1080p video. You're taking like 4K amount of resolution and you're squishing it down to 1080p, and the result is a much crisper, cleaner image. Um, and that really blew my mind. I kind of figured that out on an accident, and then I looked it up, and then other people confirmed. They're like, "Yeah, that's technically oversampling." And I'm like, "I didn't even know that was a thing with video."
Oh, instead of
So
down
that's
samp, so when it down samples, it has more pixel. I don't know, has more stuff to
I
work
think
with.
I don't know how it works, but it's just like it somehow has more data and it just works out better. Also, the other big thing is file size. If sometimes weird things can happen, and when you're making a video, it ends up being like way too big, and using a software like Handbrake to compress your video before it hits Instagram, so you can be in control of how well you compress it. Like Handbrake does a really good job of compressing things while maintaining quality. If you do that, I believe Instagram won't be as harsh on their compression because they're like, okay, it's already a small file. We don't really need to compress it too much. So I think those two things paired together are a huge
Oh,
help
I didn't
with.
really know it worked like that. I always thought that it would just compress it to a standard algorithm, but if it has like
I don't
slight
know.
judgment, that might make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but that's kind of the general consensus online as well. Is just the smaller the file size you give it, the less it's going to have to compress. Because I'm sure it has some sort of target size versus length that it wants to get to allow smooth playback for people, because that's what they prioritize, obviously, over quality, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, but it's annoying. There's other issues. Like I've been running into sync issues. I posted about that the other day. Is like I spend a lot of time syncing up my visuals and animating to the song to hit the beats perfectly, and then I upload it to Instagram, and it's like a half a second off beat, and I'm like, damn, that sucks. So there's other weird issues that just are kind of par for the course, and still trying to figure it out.
Totally got you. I
But
actually
yeah.
just sent you the link to that open source uh, touch design
Oh,
software.
cool. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Check it
Um,
out. It's really cool, and I can vouch for it. It works, but it's still like in beta. It's and I'm not, I haven't used the developer version, but uh it might save you some time as far as like syncing music because it's meant for real time animation. But yeah, no,
mhm.
because syncing shit to Blender, it can be a bitch. Not that I have too much experience in it. I've always worked with like real time rendering stuff, so I
Yeah, it's been nice. Like I realized you can bring in audio to Blender, so I import my song into it, and then I can see the waveform, and then I can start animating my different moves and stuff to the beat, which has been kind of nice because I used to just make animations, and then after the fact I would try to like sync it up to the music in DaVinci, my editing program,
I love DaVinci.
and
Yeah.
I love DaVinci, but yeah, it just kind of limits you to what you can do. But now in Blender, I'm like manipulating the things happening in 3D space to the music versus it being an afterthought. So that's also a huge thing if you're someone out there wanting to get into making visuals for yourself.
Did
Like
not know
definitely,
Blender could do that actually, so I'll have to
yeah, they
check
have a
that
whole
out.
video sequencer too. Like you can like straight up like edit videos in there. It's less developed than the rest of the software, but it's actually kind of crazy all the stuff it can do.
Huh, okay, I'll have to check that out. Maybe, yeah, it's great to have all these tools and options. So I've learned,
Yeah.
dude, I learned a lot today. So I want to thank you for that too. You've been very
Yeah.
helpful. I think I left with some extra tools and some knowledge that I definitely didn't know beforehand. So thank you for being such a fucking baller for the community, man. Like that's
I
like,
appreciate it, man, and thanks for taking the time and the interest to, want to sit down with me and learn a little bit more about what I do. I really appreciate it. I think it's cool what you're doing, shining light on some up and coming people and figuring out, what they're up to.
yeah, up and coming for sure, man. I think you once you start sending those tracks to labels, you will get some more ears on you, and I'm excited, dude. I really am. So on that note, I know you got to go. So thanks again for your time. Like really appreciate it. Good to meet you, dude. And if you're ever in Denver, hit me up. Let me know. And,
Oh yeah, sounds good. And I appreciate it too, man. It's been a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Me too. Me too. I thought it was awesome. And to anybody listening to this, check out Mind Splitter if you haven't already. He's dope, and he's also a really cool guy, as you just heard. So, on that note, this has been I Can't Produce a Podcast, episode number 34, or no, 35. Yeah, we're growing in numbers. And Brad, thanks again. If you would like to join our community, check out the links. The Discord is there. There is a large group of like-minded producers who have no idea what they're doing, and yeah, we love learning about production together. So
yeah, I'll join for sure. I just clicked join, so
sweet.
I'm there now.
You are a VIP member. So
Oh
yeah.
hell yeah! Does that come with bottle service?
Yep, bottle service included. We send you bottle emojis every day.
Fuck yeah! All right.
Well, yeah. So I'm gonna play you out with your newest song, "It Can Go." And to everybody listening, thank you so much. Hit the like button, hit the buttons. You know what to do. It really helps me out. Check out the description, and thanks for listening, everybody. Peace out.
See you.